Welcome to this in-depth showcase and review of the new DLC Viking Raiders of Harran bundle for Dying Light. So according to the store page for the DLC, this bundle contains two outfits named Bjorn the Warrior and Bjorn the Berserker, two two-handed axes named Ragnarok and Ashes of Ragnarok, two one-handed swords named the Aesir and the Fiery Aesir, two shields, Asgard's Protector and Asgard's Wall of Fire, and finally the Rhinen buggy skin. Oddly enough though, there's actually one more buggy skin that's not listed here called the Fiery Rhinen. We'll get to that moment later though. First, let's take a look at the outfits. So, the outfits are located underneath the DLC section under Crane in your storage, and there's two of them showing at the top for the right there. Let's take a look at the red one first. So this is what Bjorn the Berserker looks like in third person for other people when you play in co-op. He has some horns at the top, some pouches at the back, he has some armored vambraces and some chainmail around him as well, and of course the helmet on top. He also has some shoulder guards and some shin braces too at the bottom. Overall, a pretty neat outfit. I kinda like this one actually, at least from third person perspective. In first person, the gloves and hands look pretty nice with the little metal armor around his braces there, and little indentations around the leather gloves. Next, let's take a look at the blue variation, Bjorn the Warrior. There's not really much else to say about this one. This one doesn't have the horns, it's blue, and it's pretty much more or less the same outfit with just some minor deviations in it. Again, looking at it in first person now, the outfit looks pretty much the same here, except for the fact that it's blue instead of red around the wrists. Now onto the weapons. All weapon blueprints are located under the DLC section in the blueprints list. You'll see the Aesir and Ragnarok as blue tier, with Ragnarok requiring one of 3 weapon types as well as 2 components to craft it, while the Aesir requires one of 5 different weapons to craft from, as well as 3 different components. You'll notice that the Fiery Aesir and Ashes of Ragnarok, both of which are orange tier, require pretty much the same base weapons, however they're a little bit more expensive, requiring more components each to craft. Right here I have 2 sledgehammers which I can use to craft the Ragnarok from. You'll notice that one of them is gold and does more damage, while the other one is blue and does less damage. The reason why I'm showing you this is because the weapon crafted from the Ragnarok blueprint is highly dependent on the source weapon that you actually use on it. You'll notice here that crafting the Ragnarok from the golden weapon gives out a golden Ragnarok. And so crafting it out of a blue weapon would give out a blue Ragnarok. The big difference between these two highlights the importance of what kind of weapon you put into this blueprint. Here is what the Ragnarok looks like in game. It counts as a sharp, two-handed weapon and basically swings as an axe. Dropping it on the ground to look at it in more detail shows that there's some carvings and runes engraved on it. The wooden handle is wrapped by leather, and there's also more engravings at the bottom of it. Another important thing to remember about the regular Ragnarok is that you can also craft more blueprints on top of it, like God Hammer, Poison Blast, or Bolter Poison. Not only will it add these blueprint effects to it, but will also actually visually update the model of the Ragnarok. However, these elemental gadgets attached to the weapon will actually visually disappear if you drop it on the ground. Now, onto the one-handed weapon, the Aesir. I have 2 skull machetes here of different rarities and different damage values to put them both into the same blueprint, just like we did with the Ragnarok. You'll see, just like the Ragnarok, that the outcome is dependent on the input, where a golden weapon will turn into a golden Aesir, and a purple weapon will turn into a purple Aesir. And again, just like the Ragnarok, you can also put another blueprint on top of the Aesir once it's already crafted. In-game, the AC is treated like a one-handed sharp weapon. It has some interesting wooden carvings that look like roots spread across it. Now onto the orange tier weapon blueprints. Also located in the DLC section, the Fiery Aesir and the Ashes of Ragnarok also share the same attributes as the previous weapons we just talked about, where the rarity and damage outcome is dependent on the base weapon you put into it. What makes these weapons unique is that they have level 3 fire elementals attached to them. Up until now, this has previously been impossible to achieve. In-game, the Ashes of Ragnarok is almost identical to the Ragnarok, however, the runes around it are now glowing red. You can see the color fade in and out on the runes of it. With the Fiery Aesir, it's pretty much the same as the regular Aesir, however now the runes are also glowing red. I think it's really cool that you can see the heat radiating off the weapon as the air is getting displaced by it. Here's how all 4 weapons look at night. You can tell that the Fiery Aesir and the Ashes of Ragnarok are the only ones that glow in the dark due to their runes. However, as cool as the fire weapons are, there's one major flaw with them. If you compare the fiery versions to the modified regular versions, you'll notice that the modified regular versions actually deal more damage. This is because the regular modified versions are benefiting from 4 levels of elementals. 2 by 2, while the fiery versions are benefiting from only 3 levels. This is important to consider whether you want to use the regular or the fiery variants. Now onto the shields. There are 2 variations of it, a blue and an orange rarity. They're both located in the utility section, rather than the DLC section of your blueprints. Just like the weapons, there's a regular and a fiery variation of the shields. In-game, they function exactly like a regular shield would. Asgard's Wall of Fire looks pretty sick in my opinion. It also has a hot, radiating red cloud coming out of it. Here's what each shield looks like in third person. And here's a short clip of what the fiery shield looks like at night. There's also a very small chance that when perfectly deflecting an enemy's attack, they'll be set on fire with this shield. One last thing about the shields is that the regular Asgard's Protector can actually be used to craft a Claymore, Tesla or Freezing Shield. Here, it still retains its regular shape, however, you can actually see the little gadgets attached to it now. Now onto the buggy. There's actually 2 paint jobs as we talked about earlier. One's called the Fiery Rhinan and then the regular Rhinan, which is just called Rhinan. It looks like it's made out of crude wooden and metal carving, as well as some actual runes carved into the side of it. Now for the Fiery Rhinan, which is actually a cooler variant in my opinion. You'll see why. All the same runes are now glowing red, so you can see it in the dark. The headlamps are also now yellow. Well, that's not all. Once you activate UV flashlights on your buggy, you actually see the lamps themselves glow red. While I would have liked for the UV light itself to be red, this is still pretty nice. And that's about it on the review. I hope you guys enjoyed that and found that informative, and I'll just leave you guys with a short montage of me using all the stuff in this DLC.